Hi, Erica here from FiveLittleMonsters.com, and today I wanted to show you how to use these hat looms to make little knitted hats. I'm specifically going to be making a baby size hat, but this tutorial will work for any size hat. I'm going to be using the size loom that makes a baby size. What I've done is make these little bear hats, and they are made using these knitting looms to make the hat portion, and then I crocheted little ears to add onto them, or like a little snout thing, and I kind of did some embroidered eyes, and I did another one where I added some little crocheted eyes and nose and a little bow. So all of these little extra pieces are crocheted, but the basic hat on all of these is loom knit. So I wanted to do a few different tutorials showing how to embellish a plain loom knit hat with crocheted little bits and pieces to make them a little bit more fun. So what you're going to need to loom knit a hat is you're going to need some knitting looms, and you're also going to need some yarn. For this video, I am using this loom knit set. It comes with 4 knitting looms, and it's All Things You brand from Doris. And like I said, I'm going to be making a baby hat. Each of these looms will make a different size hat. So the smallest one is like a newborn size, and then the green one, the second smallest, makes like a baby size, and then the orange one would be like a child size, and the pink an adult size. So I'm going to use this blue smallest size loom for my hats. Also, in your set of knitting looms, you'll have a little pick like this that will come in the set. And you'll also have a yarn needle, which we won't need quite yet. For this sample, I'm going to be using a medium weight yarn. The one I'm going to be using is All Things You brand, just like the looms were. And you can see here, it's a number 4 medium weight yarn, just an acrylic yarn. So I have 2 skeins of yarn here, because when you're making a loom knit hat, you're going to want to double your yarn and use 2 strands at once. If you're using like a worsted weight, medium weight yarn, or a lighter weight yarn. If you're using a bulkier yarn, you can do just 1 strand, but since I'm using a medium weight, I'm going to use 2. So I just grabbed 2 skeins of the same color of yarn, and I pulled a strand from each skein, and I'm going to hold these together as I work, as if they were just one single piece of yarn. This is my working yarn. Okay, so what you're going to want to do is, you'll notice if you pick up your loom that it's got this little peg on the side right here. You're just going to want to take your end of your yarn and you're going to wrap it around there. And this is a little holding peg. It's just to hold your yarn in place as you wrap. And then you're going to pull it back towards the center, and you're going to wrap it around the peg to the right of the little holding peg. And then you're going to bring it around the back, and you're going to wrap it around the next. Bring it around the back and wrap it around the next. And you're just going to continue to do that all the way around the loom. You're working in a counterclockwise direction, just wrapping the yarn from behind and around the front and back to the back of each peg until you get all the way around your loom. When you're wrapping, you're not going to want to wrap it super tight because it will be hard to get off, but you want to do it tight enough that it stays in place, but not so tight that you can't move the loops. So I've gone around 1 time. The next step is we're going to just push all of those loops down all the way around so that there is space above them. Now I'm going to take my strand that I was working with, and this was the last one that I worked. I'm just going to continue starting with the first one again, wrapping around again. And you're just going to wrap all the way around 1 more time so that you have 2 loops on each of your pegs. And really, when it comes to loom knitting, this is basically how you make the entire hat. Okay, so I've gotten all the way back around to the beginning. So now I'm just going to kind of put my yarn on there for a second so that it'll just stay in place. And you're going to take your little pick. You're going to stick it up underneath the bottom loop. And you're going to flip that loop. I may have made this row a little bit tight. You're going to flip it over the peg so that it leaves just the top loop on the peg. And then you're going to go around and you're going to do that to every peg all the way around so that you only have one loop left. You're going to take the bottom and flip it over the top. Oops. And you just keep going around until you get all of those loops, all of the bottom loops flipped over. So I'm almost back to my beginning point. And then, just like you did after you wrapped your first round, you're just going to push all of those loops down so that there's space above them on the peg. And once you've gotten all of those pushed down, you're just going to take your same yarn that you'd been working with, and this was the last one that you did, this was your first one that you did. So you're going to go back around the first one and just once again wrap all the way around the same way that you did the last two times. And this is how you make all of the rows on your hat. Alright, so I got back around to the beginning again. Just going to wrap it on that peg for just a second to hold it. And then once again, just flip those bottom loops over the top. Okay, so again, I've gone all the way around, and I'm just going to push all of those loops back down. And you can see now on the inside, now that we've gotten a couple rows done, that's what the inside of the hat's going to look like. And you can't quite see the stitches forming on the front yet, but that is how you use a round loom to make a hat. You just keep going around in that same way, wrapping your loops around, flipping the bottom loop over the top, and then continuing on until you get to the length that you want. The length that you want is going to depend on the size of hat you're making. For these small hats, I usually do between about 5 and 6 inches tall, from the brim to the top of where I finish my last row before I take the hat off of the loom. So in between there are a couple different options that you can do for your brim, and I'm going to show you both of those options. And so I'm going to just keep going for a couple more rows, well, for a few more rows, until I reach, I don't count the number of rows when I'm doing these, I just go by measurement. So I'm going to go until I have about 3 inches, maybe a little less than 3 inches 2.5 to 3 inches maybe finished on here. So when I get to where I have about 2.5 to 3 inches finished on here, I'll come and I'll show you how to do one of your options for your brim, or the 2 different ways you can do an option for a brim. So I'm just going to keep going with this, and I will show you more once I get a little bit more length added. Okay, so I've been just continuing on working this in the same way that I showed, wrapping the pegs and flipping the bottom loops over the top. And now I've got, see if I can show this. It's just under 3 inches from the edge of the brim to the top of my peg, about 2 3/4 of an inch. So at this point, there are 2 different options that you have. And I can show you with the finished ones. So you can see the bottom of this hat just has a rolled brim. So if you unrolled it, that's just the bottom edge there. But it kind of just rolls on its own. So one of the ways that you can finish your hat is with a rolled brim. And in order to get the rolled brim, all you have to do is just keep going, and this edge will just roll up naturally just on its own. The other option that you have is like on this one, it has this folded edge. And at this point is where you're going to make this edge if this is the kind that you want. It's like a kind of a, not exactly a cuffed brim, but it's folded up so that it gives you just a smooth finished edge there. So like I said, for the rolled brim, if that was the direction I was going to go with this hat, I would just keep working and it would just roll up on its own. I think the rolled brims can be really cute on little baby hats like these, but sometimes you want a little bit more finished edge. So in that case, so you're going to take these bottom loops from the very first row that you did, and you're going to flip them over your pegs. So you're going to have 2 loops on your hook, but what it's going to be is the first row that you worked, the first round of loops that you put on, and then the round that's already on your hook. So just go around and find that just bottom loop and flip it over the edge. It's actually pretty easy to find. It sounds like it would be more complicated than it is, but you can kind of just tell where it's at along the bottom there, and just grab those 2 strands and flip them over. And just do that all the way around to all of your pegs, so that again they all have 2 loops on each peg. Just this time, instead of, you know, you didn't wrap the top row like you normally would. Alright, almost all the way around. That's my tail that I'd started with, and you're going to want to make sure that your working yarn is not stuck inside or something. Alright, one last one, if I can get to it. Alright, so now I have all of those first round loops along on my pegs. So now, same thing as you did before, you're just going to take your bottom loop and flip it over the top. And basically what you're doing is you're working that bottom edge into the fabric of your hat, so it's now just kind of part of the hat. There's no bottom edge anymore. Just keep flipping those over. all the way around. All right, so that round's done. And now if you kind of look at the bottom of your hat, you can see that it's just got this nice finished edge now. No more rolling edge, no more loops along the bottom. It's just nice and smooth and finished. So from there, you're just going to continue working like you had before. And you're going to just keep going around and keep working your hat until you get the length that you need for your hat. And for this particular size, I think I mentioned before, I usually aim for about 5 to 6 inches tall. Kind of like I measured for the brim portion, just from the edge of your hat, which now is this folded edge. I'm not talking from the inside from the very beginning, but from the bottom of your hat up to the top of your work should be about 5 to 6 inches tall for the newborn size. So just keep going until you reach that size. Okay, so I have now gotten my hat so that it's the length that I need it to be. If I grab a measuring tape here. Okay, so I've now gotten the hat to the length that I need it to be. If I grab a measuring tape here, you can see that it's just about 5, maybe just about a little bit over 5 inches from the bottom edge up to where my loops are on my hooks, or on my pegs. So at this point, it's time to finish off the hat and take it off of the loom. So what we're going to do is we're going to cut our yarn, but you want to leave a pretty long piece so that you can sew it together. And then you're going to want to take a yarn needle and thread your yarn through. So you're going to take your needle and kind of like you did when you were lifting your pegs or your loops off of your peg, you're going to just thread your needle underneath like going up through your loop. And once you do that, you can pull it off of the hook. And you're just going to continue to go up through each loop and pull all the loops off until you've gone all the way around. You can see they're just kind of like on this thread now, on this string of yarn. And just keep going until all of your strands or your loops have been removed. And you can see more and more of the hat's coming off, and the yarn is just threaded through those loops. Okay, so I'm down to the last couple pegs. So I'm just going to finish those off. I've got one more. And now the hat is completely off of the loom. So now I've kind of got this tube with my brim along the bottom and these weird loops around the top. But if you pull on it, it will cinch that closed. If you pull it nice and tight, it should close up your hole. So you want to make sure you secure that top so that it's not going to come undone. So what I usually do is just stitch like across the hole. And then I usually go the other direction too. And then I usually go to the inside just to kind of hide my thread a little bit more. And I just weave it around through that last round of loops. And just kind of go through a couple of times just to secure the yarn so it doesn't come undone. Go around one direction and then turn around and go back the other direction just to make it really nice and secure. And once you've done that, then you can go ahead and just trim your ends. And you can see you've got a finished little hat. Obviously this end still needs to be trimmed too, but, or I mean not trimmed, but you need to weave it in first and then trim it off. But this is the hat that I made, or the same kind and style of hat that I made for this little bear hat. So you can see this is what it started out as, and then I added just a little crocheted ears, this little crocheted muzzle piece, and embroidered some eyes and facial features on there, and turned it into a little bear. So this is how you make a basic loom hat. You can go to my blog to find the instructions on how to make the added pieces to turn it into a little bear. And like I showed at the beginning, I've got a couple different varieties. One that doesn't have a face, just has the ears, and another little girl bear that has little crocheted eyes, nose, and a little bow and ears. So over the next few weeks, I'm going to show a few different things similar to this, little embellishments that you can do, tiny little pieces you can crochet and stitch onto your plain loom knit hat to make it just a little bit more fun and a little bit more interesting. These make great hats to like take to hospitals. They're great for little newborn babies. If you want to make them bigger, there are the bigger size looms, but I just decided to focus on the newborn size for mine. They work up pretty quick and they're cute plain, but you can also add to them. You can add just like a pom-pom to the top. You can make stripes when you're knitting, or you can add the little crocheted pieces and make them into cute little bears or other things that I will share soon. You can make them into other animals. You can make them into like little fruit hats, little pumpkin hats for baby born in October, or different things like that. So there's a lot of things you can do with just a little bit of embellishment to make them even cuter. And so check back on my blog to find some of the embellishments, and hopefully this video helps explain how to make the loom knit hats. Again, my blog is 5littlemonsters.com. You can find lots of crochet patterns there as well as other craft projects.